welcome to Pop Nerdery, the show that is nerdier than hacking an Amazon Fire Stick to stream bootleg footage of George Lucas' Pool House just in order to see him weep after the recent success of Lucasfilm and giving up the rights of his royalties.
At first I was interested, and then I was into it. You had me all over the place on that one.
This is a place where you are allowed to have an opinion on anything in pop culture, but you got to have more than just a little bit to say. We'll pick out some of the headlines that have us talking this week and last week since we missed, and we will also give each other our pop culture recommendations. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. I'm your host, Brent, and I've been a fan of Star Wars since yesterday. And as with me, as always, is the Mountain Dew to my mellow yellow, Dave. What's up, Dave?
How you doing, Brent? This is Dave Foltz. I am the Jack Kirby of podcasting.
It's true.
No argument.
And the Dr. Pepper to my Mr. Pibb, Toph. What's up, buddy?
Hi, Brent. Toph Rowden, your favorite rapper's favorite blogger, here with some important house cleaning news for you. I know it's housekeeping, but I've said cleaning so many times that I'm just going to keep saying cleaning. That's going to be a thing.
It.
I'm going to make it a thing. I'm going to make fetch happen.
You like being clean. It's cool.
Mostly. You got a couple different ways to follow the fine folks at Pop Nerdery here. You can follow us on the Twitters, at PopNerdery, PopNerdery. Comment on things as they happen, mostly about George Lucas, as the intro proves. Fuck you, George. Hashtag.
Fuck him.
Fuck him. You got a couple ways to listen to the show. The first is in the iTunes. Jump over to that podcast section in the store, type in Pop Nerdery in the search box. You can find us, rate us, review us, love us, snuggle our faces. Second way is on the website, popnerdy.com. Archive all the episodes there. You'll find us in the comments, making sweet word love to various nerdly things, where you're more than welcome to roll under those covers, because there's nothing but fun underneath there.
Do it.
The third way is to notate the number of frame-by-frame Rogue One breakdown trailer videos on YouTube right now. Write it on an index card, mail it to Dave Foltz. He will come to your house, podcast live in person.
I'll do it.
That's
I
legit.
will.
There are so many of those. People are so starved for 1970s looking Star Wars.
Yeah.
I literally watched one of them, and my recommended feed was nothing but 12 more of those.
If you find that to be an impossible task, you could just collect the aforementioned George Lucas tiers, mail them to my house, and I'll use them as currency with Topher.
Either way will work.
All right,
Absolutely.
guys. This, as Brent mentioned, we took last week off. We had to recover from our Batman v Superman review episode. We were spent after that thing. There was a lot
so tragic.
There was a lot of sadness. I needed to go and see good things in life. So I just rewatched, the Back to the Future trilogy, and it made me feel good about life again. So this week, because we missed last week, we're going to take a little extra time. We're going to snuggle up into some nerd news, and we're going to start with the Rogue One trailer, because if we don't add to the world's selection of Rogue One comments, what are we doing here?
Why do we even bother?
Yeah,
Let's just go home now.
So the Rogue One trailer was released last week. It got 30 million views on day one between YouTube and Facebook. So there were some people that were concerned about, what happens if we give people a Star Wars movie every year? They're not going to go see more Star Wars movies.
Get out, George. Get out.
Sorry,
I have a restraining order against you. Get
he snuck
out.
in here. He thought
Not part of the marketing decisions anymore.
Yeah.
Go home, George.
So people were worried that if we gave people Star Wars movies every year, that this shit would get watered down and no one would want it anymore. They were wrong. They were so very wrong. I'm pretty sure that legally now the month of December is going to have to come with a Star Wars release date printed on it, just like MLK Day is printed on the month of February.
Oh, gosh.
There's going to be a Star Wars holiday at some point. So this Rogue One trailer
it won't
came
be
out.
May the 4th? Is that what you're saying?
No, it'll be December, the whatever day sets them up the best to get in all the Christmas ads for Target.
Yeah. Target's going to be rolling in cash.
Oh, totally. I went in, and they rolled out a new line of Star Wars toys to coincide with the Blu-ray release, which happened this week.
Oh, my goodness.
I seriously can't take my kid to Target anymore.
It's crazy.
I have to take him to the grocery side, and then I also have to put a bag over his head. It's burlap. Don't like call CPS or anything. It's a burlap bag. But it's even like in the yogurt section. It's just like there's Kylo Ren and squeeze pops, and it's like, God, I can't. Target, I want to give you my money, but you're gonna have to come get this kid out of here. Like it'll become your problem.
Exactly.
So if your child is too cute to put a burlap sack on his head, so please save the world.
I drew a facsimile of his face on the outside of it.
I thought maybe you colored it with brown marker and made it into a Chewie mask. Anyway,
a Scarecrow homage, quite frankly.
The Rogue One trailer, guys.
That's what we're talking about.
It looked really good. I was really happy with. It looked again. Brent and I were talking about this a little bit earlier today. It looked tactile, which is what we all loved about. Force Awakens. It looked like a real world that was lived in. They built some sets. There was a Mon Mothma.
Far, far away.
There was a Mon Mothma. I'll repeat. Anything with a Mon Mothma in it, I support.
Well, and also more excitingly is that they've developed cryogenic freezing, because that woman is now ageless for 40 years now. Because new actress, yeah, okay, I can see the side by side. That's the same woman, guys. Thanks.
I didn't want to break it to you. I didn't want to break your suspension of disbelief, but
just let Toph believe that there's science and technology out
guys,
there.
We're going to live forever. This is incredible. Star Wars has literally figured out a way for us to live forever. It's
Thanks, Lucasfilm.
I did read that there was a deleted.
They did partner with Disney, so I mean, Walt probably shared that technology from his test tube.
I learned that in one of the 9 videos I watched in the breakdown frame by frame viewing of the Rogue One trailer.
Wait, so it's Walt Disney in the back to tank?
Absolutely is. That's the guy with the cape, Ben Mendelsohn. It's not Ben Mendelsohn. It's Walt Disney.
Walt.
That's the empire that he controls now.
Walt is the actual emperor.
Shots fired.
Bum. All right. So there was a Mon Mothma. I did find out that there was a deleted scene for Revenge of the Sith where that same lady played Mon Mothma, same actress.
Weird.
Yep.
Yeah, they went back and got her, but they didn't. They decided not to put that back into Revenge of the Sith. Maybe it was not so good, like the majority.
Like the rest of it.
They
only could have made that better, quite frankly.
Those scenes actually were fine. I mean, as a lover of all things behind the scenes, those scenes absolutely were fine and was kind of interesting and made sense in the larger narrative, but whatever.
But yes, let's make the movie worse, so get her out.
I don't want to break down the whole trailer, and I don't want to do an Easter egg thing, because as Toph mentioned, YouTube is full of that. However, what I do want to do is what was your favorite part of the trailer, Brent Badig?
My all-time favorite part of my favorite part of that whole trailer was either the Mon Mothma moment or the reveal of Ben Mendelsohn's character. He just looked like someone that was in that Death Star meeting room from A New Hope.
Totally.
He fit that timeline. The costume, while a little bit different and a little more grandiose, that cape is
supreme.
Just nuts. Yeah.
Supreme.
And knowing enough about kind of the Legends timeline, the Thrawn, the Thrawn characterization, I wonder if they're pulling a little bit of that for his character and stuff. So that did it for me, I think, more than anything.
And any chance that you guys think that character might be Grand Moff Tarkin before he is a Grand Moff?
I'm saying no, because let's get there in a second, maybe. Okay. So, what was your favorite part of the trailer?
The part that I came out not knowing what the movie was about.
Yeah.
But I'm dead serious.
Wait, really though?
I mean, there's a lady, and she might have been an Imperial, or she might not be. No one seems to be excited about her. Both sides kind of want to use her. I don't know what's going to happen. Truly, I'm very happy to not have, I've stayed away specifically from a lot of this information.
Yeah.
So the trailer did what it was supposed to. I went, who's she? What's she's about? She seems pretty pimpin'. Cool.
Okay. Oh, so I watched the trailer knowing what this movie is about, and I didn't even catch that at all. So maybe Disney is really relying on the fact that, hey, everybody's reading about this shit on the internet.
Could be, but truthfully, for me, it was like I was more excited about the look and feel of it. Like atmospherically, it looked good. It looked like Star Wars, like capital S, capital W Star Wars. So, you know, and I went, hey, this seems like a fun story. I want to see it.
You know what my favorite part was, guys? You know what my favorite part was?
Mom Mothma.
AT-ATs. They were fucking AT-ATs.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah. And it looks like
in like the jungle.
Yeah, it looks like they're in Vietnam. Like
on the beach. Yeah.
Just anywhere besides Hoth that we get to see them, I'm in. Give me more.
Yeah, put AT-ATs.
And we got one in the forest moon of Endor.
That's
just
true.
One.
Just one.
But going back to that point about is it or is it not the Tarkin? Having read the lovely Tarkin book that came out, whose author I'm spacing on right now, but we recommend
James Luceno.
Sure. We've recommended that book here on this here podcast before. Highly recommended. Does not seem like the guy who would put on a Pippin-ass cape like that. So I'm going to say no Tarkin, simply based on the cape.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting point. I also do not think it's Tarkin because I don't think they would drop Tarkin in the trailer this early.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Because he's kind of the iconic character that we all wanted more of and have longed for more of since 1977. And because of some of the things I've heard said about certain technology that they are trying to implement into Rogue One to try and avoid spoilers.
Okay.
Too much speculation on my part. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't think Mendelsohn is Tarkin.
I do kind of hope that, again, we've said this before because I read Aftermath and have read Tarkin and am now reading the YA 100-page books like the Smuggler's Run and Weapon of a Jedi. Those are nice, quick reads. I do really hope that the characters from these books become big parts of these movies, especially in the anthology movies where you can just kind of like slide things in.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the Rogue One.
Another awesome Star Wars movie.
Yes, and I can't wait.
Again.
And it's, I think another thing just real quick about Rogue One, it's cool that this can be its own standalone story, but I'd love for it to be an option for us to revisit like this gang of characters as they are doing things for the Rebels behind the scenes or parallel to that original trilogy. Like that would if they can make compelling stories for things like that and stick them on Hoth at some point or something like that. I think that would be remarkably creative. And
this answers one of my big criticisms of The Force Awakens, where we didn't get a bunch of that, like what's actually going on with this.
Yeah.
And I think, and maybe this could just be, revisionist history here, but we're going to get a big dose of that with Rogue One. So I don't know if that was specifically a choice with Force
maybe.
Awakens. That was like, we're going to do kind of two, as we've blown Marvel for on this podcast multiple times, we're going to have this movie that's going to be about this kind of thing, and this movie over here is going to do something different. Even if they play in the same sandbox, they're going to have a look and feel that's entirely separate. So I'm thrilled beyond belief to get both kinds of movies that can play in that same sandbox.
Disney's really figured that shit out.
They're pretty good at this.
And as, again, we've talked about, they've got the Marvel movies working because it's a buddy cop film or because it's a heist movie or whatever.
Right.
That's what Rogue One is set up to be, is its own, and I won't spoil it for Toph since he knows nothing about it, but it's going to be a film that is following the typical beats of a movie we would see in a theater just set in the Star Wars universe. So that's so exciting.
Perfect.
And if they can weave in stuff that's going on with Rebels or whatever, down the line, I do think some of that will have a chance to really, really live and breathe. So it's cool.
Totally. All right. One last Star Wars thing before we move on to the MCU. Daisy Ridley was out. She was at the MTV Movie Awards or something, but she's also been out promoting the Blu-ray for this movie. Not that everyone on the planet's not going to buy the Blu-ray for this movie. For The Force Awakens.
No, just because Daisy asked me to.
She let slip. And I would assume that this would be true. I don't know why anyone was surprised, but she let slip that before they even started filming Force Awakens, she knew about Rey's parentage. She knows who Rey's parents are, and she doesn't think that it's that important. So I don't know if she's just trying to throw people off the scent, but she said, I think the amazing thing, this is a quote, I think the amazing thing about Seven is that Finn and Rey don't come from anywhere, and they find a place in this universe. So to me, it's funny that people think it's so important, her parentage, because I don't think it really is. So that's
I think it's pretty important. I get what she's saying, and I agree in that it's very nice to have characters that you can like and can be invested in without being like, oh, they're from here or whatever. Right. It's actually pretty important. That's going to be an important story beat at the very least, and even if it is the answer that, well, her parents aren't anyone. Turns out that it was no one. Okay, fine, but that's still important. Yeah, that's a story beat that's useful.
So a couple thoughts on this. Did either of you actually listen to that interview? Because I did. Okay.
I did not. I read it.
I listened to it, and it was kind of obvious to me that she was playing the game a little bit. Like, not necessarily she definitely said things tongue-in-cheek or definitely said things sarcastically, but, you could tell she was working the interview on the spot. Like, is it really important? I think and then very quickly, I think the cool thing is I came from nowhere. So she had very strategically planned out that answer when those types of questions came up.
JJ got to her.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the right answer regardless of whatever the truth is. I also thought that she learned the heritage during the filming, not necessarily before the filming. But I might be wrong on that piece.
Well, and the cool thing is, the coolest part of it that I picked up was they said in the story that I read that she hinted that Leia's connection to the Force might be further explored alongside Rey's connection to the Force.
Oh, cool.
Which is something I've wanted to see since 1983. I wanted to see Leia. So at the end of Jedi, they hint that Leia has a connection to the Force. They show you, some of these things throughout the trilogy, and then we're just left to go like, oh, well, Leia's going to be a Jedi now. And then in Force Awakens, they show you that she's not, that she has not turned into a Jedi, or at least they don't
sensitive.
Right, at least they don't explicitly show you that she is a Jedi. And I'd be really interested to see that. Leia was, every character was my favorite character from the original trilogy, but Leia was a badass, and I would like to see that. I don't know if Carrie Fisher's ability at this point is going to limit that story from being told, but
maybe she's just like a secret Jedi. Like it's like the Harry Potter thing where you don't show off magic in front of Muggles, so she's not like surrounded by Jedi. Like she keeps that shit on the DL. But, like, at home, she's totally, like, whipping shit around the kitchen and, like, making dinner with, like,
that'd be tight.
Power. I'm going to live in that world and just pretend that that's what's going on.
You know what I don't want, though? I don't want to see her fight like the Count Dooku fight, where all of a sudden it's like, oh Leia can jump around and do flippies? Like,
no.
I don't think JJ doesn't hate me enough to do that. George hated me enough to do that, to have Yoda flipping around like a goddamn berserk frog. That fucking bitch.
All right, before we go down the rabbit hole of rage, before we walk down the path of the dark side, let's go back toward the light and the MCU. There was a shitload of MCU news because everybody is out promoting Cap 3. So we got stuff from Feige, we got stuff on Strange, we got all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to rapid fire.
Strange.
The first thing is, and we talked about this with Deadpool, and we talked about this with Batman v Superman, but the new thing is that these movies are shown prior to critics being able to release their reviews, and then you get like the initial reactions that the movie studio allows them to give on Twitter, right? So so Deadpool only showed it to fans, and we got the reactions, and they were super positive from fans. And we talked about that on the show, and we thought that was a good thing. And then we got the same thing from Batman v Superman, reactions, but only from fans, not from critics, and they were positive yet again, and we saw how that turned out last episode. So what is encouraging to me is that for Cap 3, we got initial critic reviews. Disney was confident enough to not embargo every thought that the critics might have, whereas Warner Brothers said, pretty much, you're not allowed to talk about anything. Under the guise of, we want to keep our secrets, even though that movie was just
the secret was, it was bad.
So Cap 3 has gotten some pretty great initial reviews from the critics, and there were great reviews for both Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, and the amount of screen time and story that revolves around Peter Parker, which I'm not going to spoil for anybody on this podcast, but it got positive reviews. That they didn't overuse the character, they didn't underuse the character, and what was on the screen was not distressing in any way, right?
Distressing.
That's the best case scenario, because God, am I bored of Spider-Man?
Yeah, and I think we're gonna wait a decent enough time before we have to do another Spider-Man solo movie, but
let's just not do another one. How about that?
It is going to happen. Like I said, Kevin Feige was out there, so he gave us a bunch of stuff. Because we just spoke about Spider-Man, I was going to leave this till the end, but here we go. He clarified some of the details about the Spider-Man solo movie. Sony is producing the movie, but they're producing it from like a filmmaker standpoint, from like a like we're paying for it and we're getting the crew and the union and all, they're paying for all that stuff. Whereas Marvel Studios, so Kevin Feige and his team are the creative producers. They're hiring all the actors, they're writing the script, they're approving all the marketing. They are making the movie, right? Whereas Sony is paying for the movie and kind of co-producing. That's the way that I read the remarks that he had. So, and the only other thing about Spider-Man, before I move on to some Strange, is that it was all but confirmed that we're going to get to see the Vulture in this movie at some point, which is kind of cool. Yeah. I like the Vulture. He was always a character that I kind of liked. And he was always intriguing to me ever since in Mallrats they mentioned the Vulture soliloquy. I wanted to read that, but couldn't find it anyplace.
That's callback.
I just don't need more Spider-Man. I'm sorry. Yeah. I will say this though, if he has an interesting enough reboot, that might actually be good. If what you're saying is true, that they're going to let the people who do smart things with these movies do something smart with his movie, then I'll give it a loose call. But when I know we're getting Black Panther, but like when there are characters like that can get some shine instead of doing the 9th Spider-Man movie, I don't know.
Yeah, my problem with my biggest problem with Spider-Man is not that we're getting another one; it's that they pushed back Black Panther and Captain Marvel to do it.
Well, yeah, that's also
or they pushed back just Captain Marvel. I can't remember which ones they pushed back, but I think it was just Captain Marvel. And I would prefer to see that movie, but
yes.
I also am thankful that they did what they had to do in order to have Marvel Studios making the next Spider-Man.
I think that is the best possible outcome.
Yeah. So speaking of Captain Marvel, Feige also announced that we're going to hear about a director for that movie in about a month or two. So that's good. And that we'll start getting cast announcements later in the summer. So that probably means that they have a director for that movie right now.
Yeah,
right.
They've probably selected a director for that movie. They probably have that person under contract, and they're just waiting to announce.
They're probably already going through the casting process and have.
Oh yeah, totally. And he said that we're going to hear some casting announcements at the end of the summer. That probably means they have a short list. Marvel has been pretty good about keeping those things under wraps. But again, I saw the usual suspects mentioned in this article. Your Emily Blunts and your Charlize Therons and your there was one other that continuously gets mentioned. I
saw it, but I don't remember.
Yeah. But that is good news. That we're going to start to hear something definitive about this movie, so that way it can't be pulled out from under us. It doesn't really make any sense either why they wouldn't push it up or push a third movie into the year that Spider-Man's coming out into 2017. But anyway,
Anyway.
Let's talk about the Marvel movie that is not Cap 3, that is coming out this year, Doctor Strange. The very first Doctor Strange official teaser poster came out today, as we record this, in advance of a trailer that we're going to get this week. I don't know if it's a teaser trailer or if it's a full-length trailer.
I believe it's a teaser.
We're going to get some Eye of Agamotto, I'm hoping.
Yes.
So the teaser that you see is the back of Benedict Cumbersnatch as Doctor Strange, looking up at a... Brent just shook his head at me for my Cumbersnatch joke.
Yeah, I did. I sure did.
Looking up at the window to his apartment / home base, the Sanctum Sanctorum, and the trailer, the teaser poster looks badass.
Yeah, part of it is also that they got a lot of the stuff straight out of the comic and did it right. Like that window is a sigil that protects the Sanctum Sanctorum from a lot of weird shit. And the nice thing, like, there have been so many different artists who have like played with this and done a lot of stuff with it, so it's very cool to see that represented like picture perfect for the movie. Because as we know, in 90% of the cases, the more you leave it similar to the comics, the better the movie has tended to turn out. So the fact that they're taking attention to detail and stuff like that is very heartening, because this is going to be a really strange movie.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, seriously, it's going to be fucking weird. And so the more that they kind of rely on some of that canon, I think the better off it's going to go. So I was pumped to see small details like that already coming out in like the first wave of some shit.
I totally agree. I think that the other thing that I read about it was a comment from it was either a comment from Feige or a comment from the director of Doctor Strange, and they said that the 3D of this movie, the 3D aspects of this movie will bend your mind. And if I'm going to see any Marvel movie in 3D, I might drop some acid and go see Doctor Strange in 3D.
Of all, like, Avengers, like, oh, shit's flying at my face and people are flying and jumping, like, this one's going to have some weird shit. Like, this is probably not Pink Floyd's The Wall, but it's going to be the closest thing Marvel ever gets to it. So just go ahead and do that one in 3, for sure.
Yeah. It's going to be some psychedelic shit.
I'm in.
And the last two things are just kind of like schedule planning, I guess, for Marvel, which they hadn't announced yet, but they are announcing now, is that it's not coming before 2020, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is definitely on the docket, which I guess that we probably could have guessed. They've made all of their movies into trilogies thus far.
You might as well.
They're kind of getting there. Guardians was fun the first time. They must be seeing encouraging stuff from the filming because it's filming now. So that one is on the slate officially. And then the last thing is MCU related, but not in the movie universe. Charlie Cox mentioned in an interview that the Defenders will be filming this year. So late 2016, they're going to actually start filming Defenders, which makes me think that we're going to see it in the fall of 2017 or the spring of 2016.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much longer.
No. And they just dropped Daredevil season 2.
Yeah.
So you probably want to get as much Daredevil as you can get out as you can.
Dave, did you finish Daredevil season 2?
I did.
You're completed there?
I have completed it. Have you finished it?
I'm like halfway through.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil it for you, as I did another Marvel property.
I don't love this one as much as I wanted to love Daredevil season 2.
So you know that Elektra is going to be in it because of the teasers.
Well, I've met Elektra now.
Okay. So that was going to be my question. Have you met Elektra or have you not?
I have.
If the answer is you have met Elektra and you still don't like the first half of the season, I have bad news for you. That in my opinion, it doesn't get better from there. I really liked the first half of the season. So what you've already watched and are not wild about, I loved.
Well, no, let me take that back. I think you're right. I loved the stuff with the Punisher.
Yes.
And there's a, how can I say this without spoiling anything, a meeting of minds between those two characters where they get a lot of chance to kind of explore that. I
Absolutely.
really, really loved that episode.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
That was one of the strongest. It's the episode he's referencing is season 2, episode 3.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil anything either, but it is one of the strongest episodes of the entire series.
It honestly felt like what Batman Superman could have been in terms of
Totally.
very opposite dichotomies who are supposedly on the same side having a very frank discussion. Now, I think there's also a good chance
a frank discussion.
I didn't even mean that. I'm taking it, though. I will say there's the chance that Dave and I probably like this is maybe the most Sorkin of all of the Daredevil episodes, because there's just a lot of talking. There's plenty of action. There's plenty of action to stuff in your Daredevil loving pants, but there's also just a lot of mouth flapping too. So, but that to me was maybe the most interesting thing Daredevil has done. I think I'm just kind of missing Kingpin in terms of a dedicated adversary.
The story arcs,
yeah.
And you will get hints. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you'll get hints at the larger machinations that are going on here.
Sure.
The Elektra stuff,
yeah,
I like about 50% of all of the Elektra stuff, and she takes up a lot of the second half of the season. But there are some very strong moments. It's still better than Arrow.
Oh,
I
God,
think overall, I still like Daredevil better than Flash. But if I have to rank the Netflix seasons, I probably have Daredevil season 1 and Jessica Jones tied at the top.
Yes.
And Daredevil season 2 is somewhere behind that.
There's a big gap between, like, I think you and I both came out gushing about Jessica Jones in like how.
Oh yeah, totally great.
And Daredevil season 1 is great and impactful and everything else. This is just, I don't know. I was so hyped for it to come out, and I plowed through the first couple episodes and loved it, and now I've just kind of trailed off to the point I don't think I've watched an episode in like 2 days.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that episode, the episode that we really liked, was kind of Aaron Sorkin-like, and I think the reason that I loved it, that's a good call, but it was very Frank Miller-like.
Oh, definitely too.
Frank Miller is very dialogue heavy, very inner monologue, and that's all that was. It was people inner monologuing, but doing it to each other.
But doing it out loud.
Yeah, doing it out loud to each other. So it was pretty great.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brent. No. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up by talking about some Warner Brothers properties. We're gonna do it quickly, and we're not gonna get sad. But the Warner Brothers exec did confirm. Yeah, we're gonna try not to get sad. The Warner Brothers exec did confirm that there will be an Affleck-led Batman solo film that they're working on right now. And Affleck's agent confirmed that there is an Affleck-written script that he and comics DC aficionado Jeff Johns are working on right now. Jeff Johns is kind of like the chief creative officer of all things DC, so you couldn't really ask for a better guy to consult on a thing. He very heavily consults on the CW shows and Supergirl. So Jeff Johns. So that was kind of confirmed.
I'm into dead bats hunting. Just give me that dead bats hunting.
Yeah. They also, I didn't know that they needed to confirm this, but apparently there was some confusion in the world still that they confirmed that Affleck's Batman is not an older version of Bale's Batman, and I said yes, of course not. We all knew that already, but that came out, and I didn't know if there was confusion in the world about that.
Confused about this?
I don't know. At the end of Nolan's Batman, it was pretty clear that he was just going to spend the rest of his day railing Catwoman. And
he wasn't the Bat anymore. What?
Yeah. Okay. So
espresso and baguettes was in his entire future.
In weird cafes.
So yeah, they cleared that up, I guess. They cleared up the zero confusion by introducing confusion.
Shoo.
Okay.
There was a new Suicide Squad trailer. It was again very pop rock heavy. Last time it was Bohemian Rhapsody. This time it was what the hell was the song this time? I don't remember, but it was another like very pop rock heavy song, which is fine. But I don't really want to talk about the trailer so much as I want to talk about the fact that it was leaked that they're reshooting significant portions of this movie, not just like Marvel reshoots where like they plan them ahead of time to hey, we're going to do 2 weeks of reshoots just to get anything we didn't get after the first edit. This is like they're getting all the actors back together and like remaking the costumes and rebuilding sets, and with a mandate of let's make it funnier, which is a good, but maybe should have been thought of the first time around.
Yeah. I don't care if it's funny. I care if it sucks.
It was not done in reaction to Batman Superman because it was planned prior to that, but it was planned. I think it was done pretty much in direct reaction to Deadpool. They were like, oh shit, Deadpool's funny. It can be funny. It can laugh at itself. Let's go do that.
I think it'd also be the internet coming out and saying no one gives a fuck about this movie. We don't.
Yeah, and they've spent a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's kind of Warner Brothers' thing, is they're just going to throw more money at it until they feel like it's right.
And then it'll still be right.
That's yet another reason why we were so disappointed by Batman Superman.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and lastly, so that we don't end on a downer, we're going to talk about something that Topher has Topher, quote unquote, turgid. He is a big fan of the footage that was released about Kong Skull Island.
I'm a huge fan of giant monkeys.
And so for anyone needing the definition of turgid, I'm just going to send you to dictionary.com instead of getting, too R-rated on the podcast right now.
Yeah,
I appreciate you leaving a little something behind the curtain there, Brent.
I feel like you would get a more full definition if you went to Urban Dictionary. The big curtain.
Oh God, Kong Skull Island, yes. Yeah, truly, this to me falls. This falls directly into Mad Max territory, where it's either going to be awesome or complete and utter shit. And one way or the other, I'm kind of into it. Like, I appreciate a movie that's going to straddle that line between, like, Mad Max. You look at it and go, did we really need another Mad Max? The answer was yes. I don't think we knew that was the answer going into it, certainly. But now you look at it and go, cool, I'm into this. King Kong is such a fascinating character that, I don't know, and this is a weird thing with me. I don't care about Godzilla, who is a giant lizard. Meanwhile, give me King Kong, who is a giant monkey, and I'm completely into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
King Kong is so tied up in the history of movies, too, that, like...
That also helps.
It's at least partially interesting.
Yeah, and more than anything, I think Skull Island is the most underrated character in the King Kong franchise. You know, like, just understanding how that island continues to exist and what all life is there. Yes. That's why a movie like this can be greenlit, and I'm glad that they did that. Like, as kind of robust and just kind of tragic that Peter Jackson King Kong movie turned out, the amount of design work that went into it and thoughtfulness on what kind of that island could bring to the table was the most interesting part about that movie. And I own the extended edition of King Kong purely because of all that stuff and have soaked up all the behind the scenes. And I kind of hope, at least from some sort of canon standpoint, they honor or at least utilize some of the stuff that the Weta group developed for that iteration of King Kong.
We've only seen a tiny amount of footage thus far, but I think that they would be liars if they said they didn't take a lot of that stuff into account. Just from like the atmosphere look of the sets and some of the location pieces we've seen, it's pretty clear that I think that weighed really heavily on their decision to make. My guess is that, like you were saying, the island is the main character, and then there also happen to be other things that occur there, like giant monkeys and, Vietnam-era soldiers. I'm fine with that. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Great. Fine.
Maybe that's the way in of like, oh, U.S. soldiers ended up there somehow.
I don't even care how, because it's Skull Island, and it looks fucking banging. Because, and the one thing that I loved maybe more than anything else is exactly what Brett alluded to, is like that the island is a character, because there's a shot of them going past what is obviously a humongous rib cage. So it's not just like King Kong is a weird like mutation, and it's just one of them. Like there's a reason that this happens.
Yeah.
In the same way that Mad Max did kind of the opposite and said, we're going to give you none of the reason, and we're just going to throw you into the middle of this action, and that was really satisfying. We've seen the outcome of King Kong a bunch. Let's go back and look at the reason behind that now, because that's what is actually going to make this compelling. And I'm in.
Yeah.
Gimme.
Totally agree. And especially when you put it in the lens of hey, did we need another Mad Max? Turns out, yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out, yeah. Did we really need another Planet of the Apes? Turns out, yeah. I like that.
No,
I was down for that.
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah, there's some remakes that are just shouldn't be done. This falls in the category of stuff that's so campy and strange, and definitely isn't like we're not trying to remake The Godfather Part 2 here. So no one's going to be like, how dare you try to make another King Kong movie? Like, go ahead, do something strange with it. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
Yeah. And I do hope they do something with it. That would be kind of cool.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I hope they do make Godfather Part 2 again. I was getting in the car. I was coming at you.
No, thank you. All right. With that, we are going to wrap up our new segment. If you feel like there's anything that we missed, come and visit us on the website or tweet at PopNerdery, and we'll try and comment on some stuff that we missed there. Feel like we did a pretty good job, gents. But now we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back, give you some recommendations that we have saved up. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Go to popnerdery.com/audible and sign up for a free trial to support the show and get hours of entertainment.
Audible is perfect for people who don't like to read words and instead want to hear words.
Exactly, Toph. With your Audible free trial, you get 2 free audiobooks to start. When the trial ends, you get 1 audiobook a month for $14.95 a month. You also receive 30% off the price of every additional audiobook that you purchase. You can cancel at any time, and unlike Netflix, you get to keep your books even when you cancel.
That sounds like a better deal than the time that cop caught me listening to 50 Shades of Grey that I got from Audible and let me off with a warning as soon as I promised to put my pants back on.
That's right, listeners. Go to popnerdery.com/audible to sign up for your free trial, and then tell your friends. That way they can share in your audiobook goodness.
And welcome back. If this is the part of the podcast that you're used to hearing, a longer segment where we actually do a deep dive and talk about something, sorry, you'll have to stay tuned to the episode 18. And episode 18 or 19 will actually be a live podcast where the 3 voices you're used to hearing will all be coming from the same microphones because we'll be in the same room together.
Oh, shit! What?
Which is crazy, and we're excited about it. So stay tuned for that upcoming. But instead of that segment, the longer segment right now, we are jumping right into recommendations because the news section was so beefy. The meat and potatoes of episode 17 was the news, the analysis of everything that happened. We wanted to just do recommendations and then be out of here. So why don't we throw to Toph first for a recommendation, and then we'll kind of do a little roundtable on that. Toph?
Thanks, Brett. As your favorite rapper's favorite blogger, I really feel like it's important to keep us middle-aged white men in touch with what rap culture is doing now.
Work on nerdy street cred for us right now.
Yeah, in the nerdiest way possible, in the way that we've discussed my love for Run the Jewels and, Killer Mike. My first recommendation is something that has showed up in a delicious Amazon package this week. I'm a little late to it, but I hadn't heard of it before. It is the Rap Yearbook, which is a lovely coffee table style book that goes through and selects what the author's opinion for the best or most important rap song of the year is, and does like an essay year by year, including a lot of first-person stuff if they could find the people or get them to comment.
Wow.
It's an incredible, first and foremost, it's fun to do some of the stuff that, is before your time. You're going back and, there are a couple songs on there that are sampled very heavily throughout the rest of the book even, and it's very fascinating to kind of look at the origin story of that stuff. But then also, it's just a fun nostalgia thing to remember, oh God, I was 13 and attempting to play edited versions of this song in my mom's minivan without her maybe quite noticing exactly what the lyrical content of the song was.
This is so incredible. I just pulled up the image, and 1989, Fight the Power. 1990, Bonita Applebum. 1991, Mind Playing Tricks on Me. 1992, Nothing But a G Thing. 1993, Cream. Get the money.
I did this on Sunday night or Monday night, I don't remember. I highly recommend getting a couple tall boys of your favorite cheap beer, firing up the YouTube machine, and putting on whatever song is referenced, and going through and reading this a couple pages at a time. The illustrations in the book are also gorgeous. I mean, the whole thing's put together really nicely. But if you're into the hip-hop music and the rapping, as the kids and I, clearly as I am one of the kids of the streets, are into this kind of thing, it's a fascinating deep dive into an art form that is, for once, we didn't steal it from someone else. This is actually our thing.
Very nice. Can you give me the title and the author one more time?
It is the Rap Yearbook, and its author is
Shea Serrano.
Thank you.
Yes.
Shea Serrano.
I was frantically looking for the book, and it's downstairs actually on my coffee table.
There you go.
As a coffee table book, it should be.
Basically.
There's a foreword by Ice-T, so
it's legit.
If you're a fan of Coco's husband, make that happen.
Oh, God.
If the foreword was by Vanilla Ice, I think I would trust it a lot less.
Correct.
Yes. Well said.
Or slightly more because it was going to be a train wreck. I don't know. That could go either way. I'm listening to that one way or the other.
Shea Serrano, wife of Pedro Serrano. He hit baseball long time.
I don't think that's true, but I'll go with it. We'll just invent that. I, in fact, think it's actually a gentleman, but that's neither here nor there.
All right. Either way.
Well, Dave,
do you got a recommendation for me here?
Yeah,
I do.
Can you even possibly top that?
I do. I think that you guys are really going to like this. This is a recommendation that I have mentioned before in a conversation about animation at some point, but I've never fully recommended it. It was because I hadn't gotten far enough into it to really give it my seal of approval. I'm going to recommend a specific episode of a specific TV show that I believe you can find for free online if you just Google it. I think it's on Adult Swim on the website, or it's on YouTube, or it's on some damn place. So you can get it for free. I am recommending Rick and Morty Season 1, Episode 10. Rick and Morty, if you guys have never seen it, have either of you guys watched Rick and Morty?
You've told me I should be, but I haven't.
Okay.
Correct. Same.
This is a show that if you like anything that we have talked about and you like it to the depth to which we talk about it, you would love this show.
Yeah.
So this episode is a comment on sci-fi and sci-fi tropes. It really is a deep dive into the implications of what happens when you have a multiverse. What that truly means when the multiverse isn't just there as a convenience for your storytelling, but that the multiverse is there as an inconvenience to your storytelling and as an inconvenience to your characters. So they did 2 episodes in a row where one was about a multiversal cable box where you could watch different television shows across a multiverse and how ridiculous that would actually be. But this one is called Close Encounters of the Rick Kind, or Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind in the title, because Rick is the main character. He's the genius. Rick is Morty's grandfather, so he's the genius, and Morty is kind of the dumb grandkid. And in this episode, they explore what it means that each universe has a Rick and a Morty. There are Ricks and there are Mortys, and the plot of this episode kind of starts off 27 Ricks from 27 different alternate dimensions show up. They belong to the Transdimensional Council of Ricks, and they order that the original Rick, that is the show of the star of the show, they order that he needs to be put under arrest because 27 Ricks have been murdered across different transdimensional timelines, and it gets really crazy where they really kind of dive into what does it mean when there are infinite Ricks and infinite Mortys, and what sorts of like economies pop up around the fact that there are infinite Ricks and infinite Mortys, and what sort of problems exist when the Ricks are smart enough across all timelines to all have trans-dimensional portal guns so they can go to different dimensions. Wow. What happens when all of them can do this?
Wow.
And it is the best look at a multiverse when you're not just using the multiverse to be like, oh, here's a different cool Earth 2 version of Batman so that we can draw that and make it look cool.
Sure.
This is a real story that is, it's very funny. it's Rick and Morty is a show that's produced by Dan Harmon of Community, so
Right.
it gets silly. And this is the first time I've watched an episode where I'm far enough in to where I can go, oh yeah, this is our thing. Before I thought it was just dick and fart jokes in a sci-fi world, which is fine. That was fun, but this is the episode where I'm like, oh geez, they really get
this is my jam. This is my jam right there.
Yeah, they really get our demographic, and they're starting to build on each other. And it's into episode 3 now, or season 3, I believe. So we're getting some really good content out of this show, and they're 20 minutes long. 20 minutes, you blast through it.
Nice, yeah.
I like
Rick and Morty,
about that.
season 1, episode 10. Close Rick counters of the Rick kind.
Awesome. So I got 2 different ones. I'll hit you with one real quick. And this is something that I have mentioned to the gentleman on the podcast, so it's not so much a recommendation for you as much it is a recommendation for the listeners, especially any listeners that have kids. But if you don't have kids, I'm giving you the PopNerdery stamp of approval to buy these things for yourself. I'm sure each and every one of us who had parents who loved them grew up with books in their home with a spine covered in a white or a golden glossy
Little gold foil.
Yeah,
Did
they're called
it
little golden books.
Feature strange characters along the side of that golden rail?
Indeed. Little Golden Books by Random House Kids is a whole series of books that we all grew up on, and there's a whole bunch of wholesome in there, and a whole bunch of fairy tale in there, and a whole bunch of moral teachings in there. But they've also released over the last 6 months every movie in the Star Wars universe as their own little golden book.
Hell yes.
And if you plan on having kid children, or you have children and you want to teach them the morals of Star Wars in a little more kid-friendly form, little golden books, every Star Wars episode has been released. And I just got my Episode 7, The Force Awakens, today, and read it to my 3.5-year-old, which was his exposure to that entire storyline, which has some heavy stuff in it, like in the end. And he immediately started discussing with me on what exactly he would do to Kylo Ren for the heinous act that he committed. And it ended up with something about my son getting some sort of sword, not a lightsaber, but a sword,
right.
So that he could cut Kylo Ren in half from top to bottom, which was a pretty vivid bit of imagery that I got from my 3.5-year-old, but at least he's going after the bad guys, so I'm okay with it.
Because I actually really struggle with this, with the Star Wars A to Z book, where A is for Anakin, and my child who views the world much in the same way that I do. Either things are awesome or they're terrible, and we should fight them.
Okay.
I'm of the same mindset. A is for Anakin. Is Anakin a good guy or a bad guy? And good night, do I? It's like, wow. Well, I mean,
Anakin was a good guy. When he became Darth Vader, he was a bad guy.
Right, but like, how do you explain that morality play to
I don't know.
2.5-year-old? I don't have a good answer, so I usually just flip the page quickly.
Yeah.
My answer to that question is to flip it over, because C is for C-3PO, and I can tell you that he's a bad guy. Every time he opens his mouth, he's a bad guy. You're not a bad guy.
My moral conundrum was not about whether Anakin was a good guy or a bad guy. It was about, I need to teach Brent's son that you cut people hamburger style and not hot dog.
Right. You go
left to right.
Right. You go for the Darth Maul split, like through the middle, because that's an easier cut than going like all the way up and down.
Exactly.
My son has a wide open future, gentlemen, and if you try to hold him down, I will fight you.
I would never. I want him to explore that dream. I want him to live that dream and be that dream, where he can slice Kylo Ren from groin to head. I love that.
Indeed. It will happen. He will be whatever he wants to be. He is a tiny little bird, and the sky is wide open. And with that, I will ask Toph for any recommendations that he has remaining.
So I have 2 to go out on. I feel like I'm going to further cement my street cred and then throw it all away by cementing my nerd cred here. I'm going to go to both ends. I'm going to polar opposites here. Something that you should definitely be aware of is Record Store Day is April 16th. Record Store Day is a day that, much like New Comic Book Day, happens on Wednesday. Record Store Day is where a lot of artists release a lot of stuff to specific independent record stores. So if you're buying physical CDs at Best Buy, please stop and go to an independent record store. As someone who worked in one of the local independent record stores for a long time, it's an important place. It's a place where people do what we do on this podcast with music. They're in live and in person. When I joke that Dave Foltz will come to your house and podcast live and in person, if you want to get really fucking nerdy about music, go talk to a clerk at an independent record store because, God, are they just waiting for someone to come in with an intelligent question? Because, the rest of the time we're just bringing up, Taylor Swift CDs, and that's not great.
So is it going to be like when I watch High Fidelity?
It is 100.
I ask for
the joke is that yes, like High Fidelity was a funny movie, but no, that's real. We will absolutely judge and mock your choices directly to your face because we're not beholden to Best Buy corporate. I have to go talk to a boss that only barely wants to be there anyways. And if he's got some customers like he was mean to me about Taylor Swift, he's gonna go, "Did you buy anything else besides that? No, get the fuck out of here." So
goodbye.
Yeah, no, really, that's real life. But Record Store Day, April 16th, it's usually a big party. There are typically bands playing in stores from your local area who you haven't heard of and are awesome. Big artists, people like Jack White will do a huge release that's just specific to this. Go and shop at your local record store. And then when you're done, go and shop at your local comic shop because both of those deserve your money. Now let me throw away all of my street cred quickly by recommending a giant fantasy tome called Name of the Wind in the King Killer Chronicles.
I had...
What did you say, nerd? I was over here shining my football trophies.
You heard the part about Record Store Day, and then as soon as I talked about nerd shit again, it's just like, ugh, you're gross. Patrick Rothfuss, book 1 of the King Killer Chronicles, Name of the Wind. This isn't a new recommendation, however. What I want to recommend is that you go to popnerdery.com/audible, sign up for your free trial, and check this out as an audiobook because I tried it as a real book, and I like real books, and couldn't do it. However, the audiobook version from Audible, delightful.
Super good.
Nice.
I've actually been recommended this series to people, once on a different podcast that I listen to and once by like a real-life human being that I know in real life. And
that's free. You have to do it now.
The way that it was described to me on the podcast was it's like Harry Potter but for adults.
I think that's pretty fair. It's not like I don't want to disparage fantasy because I like really weird fantasy that involves dragons and all kinds of shit too, but this is pretty like standard. There are only certain people who can kind of influence things. It's not necessarily just like out and out like magic, like I make a fucking sword pop out of my pants. Like it's a little more rooted in that, so it's kind of like Harry Potter for adults. And the nice thing about it is something that we harp on all the time is the world building in this series is incredible. Like he does just an amazing job of sketching out an entire world that feels very real and allows you to kind of understand a lot of different aspects of shit that's happening in the story. So
I love world building is great.
Word building is important to creating a good story. So if you like that kind of thing, The Name of the Wind, book 1 of the King Killer Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, available on Audible, popnerdery.com/audible.
Wow, you're really killing it. Killing it!
I've had a week off. I'm ready to go. Dave, do you got something else to put in our ear holes?
Yeah, my last thing, very quick. I want to recommend the new Black Panther series.
Oh my God.
His name brutally wrong, Ta-Nehisi Coates. I hope
that's how I would say it out loud.
Okay, Ta-Nehisi Coates.
That's how I read it, yeah.
He is a critically acclaimed author. He typically writes about nonfiction. He is a very well-respected, serious author who writes important and intelligent things, and he is now writing Black Panther for Marvel Comics, and that is fucking awesome to me. The first out last week, I read it. It was great. I'm hoping that the series continues on, but I also think it is super important that when Marvel goes out and makes an extremely smart decision by hiring an extremely intelligent person to tackle one of their most important and most underutilized properties
Mm-hmm.
that you'd go out and support it. So
Let's be excited about that thing, because that's a good decision.
Yes.
We want
And-
more of those good decisions to happen. Vote with your dollars.
And Marvel is laughing all the way to the bank. They sold out the first run. They're doing a second printing, which doesn't happen on all number ones, because if you're a comic book fan now, you know that most number ones are not important anymore. They do them way frequently than they used to. But this one sold out. They're going to do a second printing. Go buy it.
Mhm.
Please read it. Comic book companies should see this as a win and go hire more that have voices from outside the comic book world to give us new and different and interesting stories.
Hallelujah.
Brent,
Cool.
you have one last one for us?
Yeah, it's really probably pretty common. I imagine anybody that's done some rabbit holes and late night YouTube jaunts has come across at least one of this guy's videos here or there. But there is a YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day. Are either of you familiar with this one?
I am.
I have seen that, yes. I love it.
I like it.
There's just so much awesomeness that can come from tiny little science experiments or tiny little questions that we've all kind of thought about or never thought about and realized that, hey, that is kind of an interesting question. And this gentleman on Smarter Every Day asks those questions, and then he does little science experiments or analysis of why things are happening, and it's just a really cool gateway for science and the exploration of the world around us, and that's exactly what I think that joie de vivre that we're all lacking, or that maybe sometimes our children are lacking, or that the schmuck that works in your office building that loves Donald Trump is lacking.
He's definitely lacking.
So, Smarter Every Day, I just think is a fun place to live on YouTube, and it's the type of thing that allows YouTube to act as the classroom that we always wanted and may have lacked in our schooling in the past. So check it out, Smarter Every Day.
Yeah, he does a great job of explaining things simply enough that you're going to learn something, but I've also put my kid in front of them and had him come out with great questions about stuff afterwards.
There you go.
Honestly, could anything be cooler than that? And I think the answer is no. Most nerds will say no.
Absolutely not. Yeah. That's what our world needs tons of.
Hell yes.
Is asking questions and realizing the value in asking questions, and exposing youth to something like that early and often, and making them understand that that's what school can be for them. That's what reading books can be for them is huge.
Absolutely.
Amen.
100% agree.
So I think with that, that'll wrap up episode 17 for us. Friends of the show, please rate, review, subscribe. That's the only way that some of our brethren out there, the pop nerds of the world, are going to find out about this show. So please do more of that. Interact with us on the website. Hit us up on the Twitters. Let us know what you want us talking about, where you think we took some missteps, and any recommendations that you would have for us. With that, at Toph and Dave, I'm going to start shooting some finger guns.
Finger guns.
Yep.
He picked up a phone block 4 times the length of his body and ran around with it above his head.
Why?
Wildly.
It's true.
Boy's got some upper body strength.
Debatable.
Just like his dad. Wait, what?
False.
I wasn't even trying to make that joke. I was just impressed when I saw him pick up my child. It's like,
I
wow.
might be one of the weakest males I know.
Are you just like arm wrestling people a bunch?
It's tragic.
How do you know this?
I have no upper body strength.
But are you challenging people to single combat, or how are you judging this?
No, at Festivus, he's the weakest one at the feats of strength.
Just every year he knows it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't show up anymore.